Hello, 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 YouTube world. It's Miss Patti with For Your CNA, and welcome to our weekly live question and answer session where I cover all the topics related to CNA training and testing and workplace and beyond. We've got a really exciting presentation for you today. We're going to start off with a little discussion like we always do. This week, we're actually going to be answering a question that Joey asked last week. Is it right to force care on a resident who is uncooperative? And we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. But before we do, I'd like to take this opportunity to invite you to like and subscribe. Subscribing is super important right now. If you look right here, right there, I only need 266 more subscribers to get to that 100,000 mark. Can you believe it? 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is amazing. You guys are so totally awesome. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please make sure you do so, because like I said, I only need 266 more to get that silver play button because we've reached 100,000. So I am so excited, guys, so excited. So hope you guys will join us on our journey as we reach that 100,000. So today, our lecture is going to be on what if a patient refuses, or can you force a patient to do something? Now, I'm going to get to your questions in just a few minutes. So I do this, I talk about a topic before I take your questions. That gives everybody time to come in and get settled and type your questions in and everything. So if you have a question, leave it in the chat and I'll get to it in just a few minutes. If you don't have a question, just give us a hello or a hi or a thumbs up or something to let us know that you're here so we can welcome you. And we do this every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, so I hope you'll join us again on future shows as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And what if a patient refuses? What is our responsibility? What do we need to do? What do we need to know? There's a lot that goes into this topic. Now, moving forward, I'm hoping to be able to give you guys some continuing education credit for this, or what we call in-services for CNAs. I'm hoping to be able to do that for you sometime in the very near future. We are researching the laws and the rules around that to find out what our process needs to be. But so for right now, it's just educational and informative and a way to support one another. But I'm hoping to be able to actually give you guys something tangible in the form of continuing education that you can use for renewal. So what does this mean? We've all seen uncooperative patients, or we've heard about them at the very least. And I really don't like that label, uncooperative patient. And guys, I have absolutely, dealt with uncooperative patients in my career, in my nursing career. So I'm not coming at this from a rosy pie in the sky place, because I do know that this does happen. But I want to kind of bring your attention to maybe something you haven't quite thought of before, maybe a different spin on it or a different perspective on it. And so I'm hoping that you leave with a few more tools in your belt to work with uncooperative patients. Hi, Yvette. Hi, Priya. Hi, Joey. This is for you. Hi, John. Okay, so when we talk about uncooperative patients, the very first thing that usually comes to mind is dementia, right? We tend to focus on dementia patients because dementia patients do tend to be uncooperative. Now, if you understand the mechanism behind this starts to actually make sense. So when you are a child, right, if you've ever been around a child that's between 1.5 and 2 years old, that 6-month period, and even going into the terrible twos, you'll know that their favorite word is no, right? If you've ever worked with a 2-year-old, their favorite word is no. And we actually call this the terrible twos, right? But that's actually a really important lesson for us, because when you feel When you start to realize that you are an independent person, right? An independent being with thoughts and feelings and desires and needs and all of that, when you start to realize you are an independent person and somebody else is stepping all over your independence, right, for your own good, obviously, because 2-year-old doesn't understand safety, but when somebody's stepping all over your independence, you're going to do everything you can to try to exert independence wherever possible. And that's where that word no comes in, right? Because no is a way for you to let others know how you feel, what you want. It is a communication of need and desire. So when you're 2 and you say no, sometimes you actually get your way. And people will kind of work around it. Other times, it doesn't work out so well. But your use of the word no starts very, very, very early in life. And it's actually something that's reinforced very profoundly in your young years. So you know that word, okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. No is a very powerful word from a psychological standpoint. And it's usually used when somebody is feeling dependent. Okay, they feel like somebody's walking all over their independence, and that's important because we're going to get to that in a minute. Now, another reason somebody might be uncooperative is psych issues. There are some, certainly some psychological conditions that would prevent patients from being cooperative. If they're in the middle of a psychotic episode, if they're having delusions, hallucinations, that type of thing. That certainly can impact their ability to provide consent or to even be cooperative. And then there's personality. And we all know somebody like this, right? Where they are just like contrary. They're going to say no to everything. If you tell them the sky is blue, they're going to argue with you, right? Their personality is very contrary. And then there are environmental issues that contribute to somebody being uncooperative. And this is something that most people don't talk about, right? We tend to focus on the first 3. Now, the first 3 are things out of our control. We can't fix dementia. As a CNA, I can't walk in and say, I don't want to deal with a dementia patient. Poof, you are healed. Man, if you could do that, you would make a fortune. But we can't control that. We can't control psych issues either. We can't magically heal somebody that's in a crisis state. We can't control personality. I know for some of you this is a really hard one, right? But we cannot control personality. If you've got a contrary person, you've got a contrary person. That's just their personality. A lot of things went in to shape that personality. You aren't going to fix it. All of those things are beyond our control. We tend to focus on those things because it gives us an out. Well, we can't fix dementia, psychosis, or personality, therefore, and it gives us an opportunity to do whatever it is that we wanted to do to begin with. We use it as a crutch, as an escape, as a justification, right? But in reality, those 3 things, the first 3 things on that list, the ones we can't control, actually make up a very small percentage of uncooperative patients. Most times a patient is uncooperative for the last reason on this list, an environmental reason. Now, when I'm talking environmental, I'm not talking about the color of the room, the temperature. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our approach, external factors, things that are in our control. So I want to talk about those right now because this is something that is missed by a lot of people. They don't get this. So I think it's important that we talk about it. So one of the main reasons that somebody would be uncooperative is fear. Now that's a huge thing. Preoccupation goes into this too, but let's think about fear for a second. Let's talk for a minute. How do I put this? Okay, let's say for a second that you wake up tomorrow morning. You go to sleep tonight in your bed. Everything is normal. You wake up tomorrow morning and all of a sudden you're in a very unusual place. You've no idea, it's not familiar, right? You look around for somebody that you know and there's nobody that you know. You are in an unfamiliar place surrounded by strangers, right? That's scary. I don't care if you have dementia or not. Man, if I woke up tomorrow morning in my local hospital and there was nobody I knew around me, I would be scared. very frightened, especially if I didn't remember right away what brought me here, if I was really sick, right? But you also have, let's say that I do know that I'm in the I remember I was in an accident yesterday, I'm in the hospital. It still doesn't take away the fact that I'm in an unfamiliar place surrounded by strangers. And I'm not really dressed for company, right? I'm in a hospital gown, covered by a sheet, nothing really else. I'm not really feeling all that comfortable here. So I'm in a strange place surrounded by strangers. I'm not really dressed. I'm laying down, which is a very dependent position, by the way. It changes the balance of power. And I'll give you guys an example of this, right? Next time you have somebody coming over to your house that you maybe don't know all that well. Don't do this with family because you're very comfortable with your family, but somebody that maybe you don't know all that well, try to have a conversation with them when you're laying down. It changes the balance of power tremendously. So if you have a vacuum cleaner salesman come to your door and you let him in, lay down on that couch and have a conversation with him. It will absolutely affect you psychologically. You will feel completely uncomfortable in that position. You need to be eye to eye with somebody to balance out that power dynamic. So that's a huge point here, is that our patients are not only in an unfamiliar place surrounded by strange people and poorly dressed, they are also laying down, which is vulnerable. They're in a very vulnerable position. Now, they're probably also pretty preoccupied. Let me tell you, if I woke up tomorrow morning in the hospital, I would definitely be preoccupied. I'd be thinking to myself, how am I going to afford this, right? There's a hospital bill at the end of this stay. How is it going to affect my ability to keep working? And, whatever's going on with me right now, is that going to affect my ability to keep working? Is this going to affect my ability to drive, to live independently? Am I going to have to go to a rehab after this? What is my significant other home doing? Who's feeding my dog? Who's going to run my business while I'm here? I mean, there's so many variables here that my mind is going a million miles a minute. What tests do they have coming up? What were my lab results? Who's coming on shift? Do I like that nurse or not? I've got a lot of things going on in my head and I'm pretty preoccupied. I can guarantee you I'm pretty preoccupied. So that sets up a whole communication problem. If I am fearful and preoccupied, your attempts to communicate with me are going to have to change because I am not in the same place as you are. We also have to understand stranger danger is real. It is real. If I'm laying in bed dressed in a hospital gown and somebody comes in and they start undressing me and I don't know you, we are not on a first name basis here, and you're going to take my clothes off. I don't care what your intentions are. We need to get some preliminaries out of the way first, right? You're not going to take my clothes off without me understanding exactly what you have planned. So stranger danger is real. Just because you have a badge on does not mean that that patient has to automatically trust you. You need to earn that trust. It is not automatic. It is not given freely. You have to earn it. Now, we also have this whole lack of communication or a misunderstanding issue here too. And this happens a lot in healthcare because you go in and you do the same job every single day. You know your job inside and out. Bed bath is a bed bath is a bed bath. Ambulating is ambulating is ambulating. I mean, you do the same thing all the time. And the issue here, the problem here is that because you are so familiar with your skill, you automatically assume that your patients are too. And you think, I don't have to explain to the patient what I'm doing. They've had this done before. It's no big deal. And you just start doing it. And that is the wrong approach to take. Because remember, your patient is fearful. They don't know you. And they're preoccupied. So when you start taking their clothes off, they're going to be like, whoa, buddy, wait a second. Hold up. Who are you and what are you doing? If you're not explaining to the patient every step of the way what you're doing, don't expect them to be cooperative because they don't know. They are not healthcare providers. They don't know how to do your job. You've got to explain it to them. Now, even patients that you work with on a regular basis. If I've got a patient I've been caring for a year and I've been doing the same things with them for a year, that does not remove my responsibility to explain it to them, because they may be having a bad day today. Guys, let's face it. If they were independent, they would not be with us. We would not be there. We would not be needed. So because they need us, that means that they are not independent, which means they may need additional instructions from us or information from us. So we have to keep that in mind as we're working with these patients. And then you've got this whole loss of control and independence. And if you don't think that affects you psychologically, you are wrong. When you get to a point in your life where you were previously independent, you worked, you drove your car, you raised your kids, you paid your bills, you kept your house, you did everything independent. You were a functional adult. And now you're not. It is humiliating and degrading and frustrating and depressing to have to rely on another human to do the things that you did for yourself. It is all kinds of emotions, all balled up. And you have to get past all that because your patient may be defensive, rightfully so. Again, if I can't bathe myself and I have to rely on somebody else to do that for me, I am going to be all kinds of upset over the fact that I have degraded to a point that somebody has to put my socks on for me. That is not what I envisioned for my life. That is so far from my level of independence that I am probably going to be all kinds of mad about it, right? So we can't go into this situation assuming our patients are going to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, be okay with us doing it. I mean, there are so many emotions here that we've got to get past. And then the other part of this is in healthcare, we tend to treat patients like they're a product, not a person. You know, the gallbladder in room 14, the hip replacement in room 22. That's no way to treat a live, living human being with thoughts and feelings and aspirations and goals and all of those things. This is a person, not a product. And when you go in and you just start to make this all kinds of routine and you're not approaching it with the right mindset, you're going to make that person feel like a product, not a person. And that is one of the quickest ways to turn your patient off and get them uncooperative. So we have all of this stuff going on, right? All of these environmental issues going on with all of our patients. All of them are experiencing one of these. Probably most of them, but all of them are experiencing at least one. Now, you add on to that things like dementia and psych issues and personality, and you end up with this huge, big mess when we're trying to work with patients. And if they don't do what we think they should do when we think they should do it, and they don't allow us to do what we want to do, we label them uncooperative. And guys, if you have an uncooperative patient, most of the time, I can probably point to a few reasons why they're uncooperative that doesn't have anything to do with them. So, what does this mean? Well, a lot of CNAs will think, okay, I've got this care plan. It tells me I have to shower the patient. The patient has to have this care. They haven't been showered in a week. They're starting to smell a little bit. My assignment sheet says, right, I have to perform this care, and they try to force the patient to comply. And there's a lot of problems with this, right? Now, we justify this in our head. We think, okay, well, for safety, they have to comply, or for hygiene, they have to comply, or for health, they have to comply. But we label it under this umbrella term. It's for their own good, right? We label it under that umbrella, for their own good. Mrs. Jones, you've got to get a shower. It's for your own good. Mr. Henry, you have to eat. It's for your own good. Now, I will agree, those things are necessary for continued good health. Absolutely. But the one thing that we have to remember here is that lack of ability does not enable lack of consent. Now, this statement may not make sense at first, but if I am unable to perform a skill, that does not automatically give you the right to perform it for me. You still have to have my consent and my participation. So lack of ability, if I am suddenly unable to do something, that does not automatically grant you the right to do it to me. That statement is super important because that statement is a legal principle. Legal. Just because somebody can't do something for themselves does not give anybody the right to automatically do it for them. They still have to be involved. Force is never the answer for a CNA. Ever. Ever. Okay? Ever. So we're going to get there. Hold on, because I know some of you are like, but wait. Hold on. We're going to get there. So there's a legal principle here that patients have rights. And when I say that, I mean all patients have rights. We don't get to pick and choose. We don't get to say, yeah, patients have rights, but not dementia patients. Or, yeah, patients have rights, but not the ones that are undergoing a psych crisis right now. Yeah, patients have rights except, no, period. All patients have rights. Period. Full stop. End of sentence. Now, what we have to understand is that those rights are going to be affected or accommodated based on the patient's individual circumstances. But let's think about force for just a second. Let's think about force for just a second. If I were to physically handle you, if you didn't know me, you had no idea who I was or what I'm about to do to you. If I came up to you and grabbed you physically and tried to restrain you, held your arms down, restrained your legs, if I tried to restrain you, you are probably not just going to go, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to fight back. All right, go ahead and do whatever you want to me. Go ahead. No, absolutely not. The minute somebody tries to restrain you, nothing good comes from that. Nothing good comes from that. So if you are about to be restrained, you are going to put up the fight of your life because you don't know what's on the other side of that restraining process. And your mind is going to go to all kinds of dark places. Right? Wait a minute. If they're trying to hide, if they're trying to hold me down, if they're trying to restrain me, if they're trying to keep me from moving, that means that whatever's coming is something I don't want. Because if I wanted it, I wouldn't be combative. Right? So when you use force, it will always be met with resistance. Always. That never changes. You try to restrain somebody and they will fight back. This is non-negotiable. We see this in law enforcement all the time, right? When you restrain somebody, they fight back. That's why we use handcuffs, is to restrain somebody, because they're probably not going willingly on their own, right? So we have to keep this in mind. When you use force, somebody is going to react to that force with resistance. Well, all that does is increase the likelihood that somebody's getting hurt, either you or me, but somebody here is going to get hurt. Force generates fear because you don't know what's on the other side of that force. If you're forcing me to do something, that means I'm not going to like what's on the other side of that. It's going to cause me to be fearful. Now, what do you think is going to happen the next time you try to do a skill with me? I'm going to be fearful. And because I'm fearful, I'm going to be uncooperative. Do you see how this sets up this recurring problem? And it's this continuous cycle. You try to do something with a patient, they resist, you use force, they become fearful. The next time you try to do something with a patient, they resist, you use force, they become more fearful. This cycle never, ever, ever ends. And it's not healthy for anybody in the situation. Force violates patients' rights. Flat out. You don't have the right to force somebody to do anything. And force will always generate consequences. There's going to be emotional consequences. There's going to be physical consequences in the form of bruises, torn muscles, strains and sprains and all kinds of stuff. And in some cases, force also results in death. And there's going to be psychological ramifications of this, right? Psychological, you've got fear, you've got distrust, you've got hostility, you've got depression. You have a lot of psychological effects of using force on somebody. And then finally, you've got some spiritual aspects of this as well. You can cause, by using force on a dependent person, you can cause them to have a spiritual crisis where they're wondering, why would my God leave me in this situation? Why, doesn't somebody come help me? I mean, there's a huge spiritual component to this where you can have them doubting their own belief system. So you have to ask yourself, how would you react to force? Right? So spend just a second to think about that. If you were in a dependent position, how would you react to force? So what do we do here, right? So professionalism is what this is all about. We're going to have patients that we have to do skills on that may be somewhat resistant. I don't like that term uncooperative, but they may be somewhat resistive. And we know that patients have rights. So because patients have rights and they may be a little uncooperative or resistant to what we're trying to do, our responsibility now is to have the skills necessary to work with those patients. And that's actually what sets us apart. So anybody can hold somebody down and do something unpleasant to them. That is not the role of a CNA, ever. Our role is actually to have the skill level, professionalism, and ethics to make sure that we can perform those skills ethically by working with the patient and meeting them where they're at. So we have to remember that force takes the care out of healthcare, and that is not what CNA stand for at all. So instead of just defaulting to, well, the patient has dementia, or the patient is has psych issues, or the patient has a bad personality, they're just mean. Instead of just defaulting to using that as a crutch for you to be able to justify your force, you need to think about it a little bit differently and understand that when you're encountering this situation, that's when your professionalism needs to shine, right? If that was the way the patients were supposed to be treated, they wouldn't be in a healthcare setting. They would be at home with their families who have caregiver fatigue, who don't have the skill level, who is going to, hold them down and do these things to them because they don't have the skill level to be able to work with the patients and meet them where they're at. We do. That's what CNA training is about, is giving you these extra skill levels. Guys, it's not about learning how to do hand and nail care. And this is where most people go way off track with CNA. They watch the skills videos and they think, okay, I know how to do hand and nail care. I know how to do foot care. I can change an occupied bed. That makes me a CNA. No, that makes you somebody that's trained to do those skills. That is not a CNA. A CNA is able to do those skills on patients that require extra care. And that is what CNA programs are supposed to focus on. So if all you're learning is the physical skills, you are not learning what it takes to be a CNA. So I need you to really understand that this is more than just skills. It's an opportunity to connect with another human, to provide ethical, compassionate care at a time when they need you the most, when they are unable to do it on their own. And that takes a little bit of work on our part. So what I'm about to explain to you, how to address this with your patients, is really the main component of any CNA program. So if we are working with a patient who is quote unquote uncooperative or resistant to care, you need to be very aware of your own nonverbal skills here. What are your nonverbal cues saying? And we actually saw this about 3 weeks ago in a presentation I gave. this same slide, right? What are your nonverbal cues saying? Because this is super important. This bears repeating. So when you're approaching somebody that is resistant to care, are you making eye contact with them? What is your facial expression saying? What is your tone of voice conveying? Are you speaking at a rate that they can understand? So if I'm in a hurry and I'm speaking really fast and my patients can't understand me, do you think they're going to give me consent? No, they're not, because they can't follow what I'm saying. So if I'm working with a patient who is resistant to care, I am automatically going to slow my speech down. I'm going to lower the tone of my voice. I'm going to make eye contact and speak softly. I'm going to explain what we're going to do, and I may use hand gestures and charades to kind of explain or demonstrate what I'm about to do to the patient. I want to be approaching in a calm, non-threatening manner, and I want to approach the patient from the front so they can see me. I never touch a patient unless they know exactly what I'm about to do when I touch them. So I'm going to explain everything before I touch them. And this, what I'm explaining to you right now, is how you take a resistant, uncooperative patient and you work with them to get them to understand what you're going to do, and that ultimately should lead to compliance. Now, it doesn't all the time, but it should. So when you're working with a patient who is resistant, the very first line here is yours. You need to check your approach. But if that doesn't happen, right, what can you do to work with this, right? How do you perform care? Well, the first thing is you need to learn your patients. You need to find out what makes them tick, right? I am not a morning person. I am not a morning person. I don't like mornings. I don't do well with mornings. And if you're trying to get me up at 4:30 in the morning out of bed, guys, I have worked my entire life to get to retirement where I'm allowed to sleep in. You get me up at 4:30 in the morning because it suits your schedule but not mine, we're going to have an issue, right? So you need to learn your patients and try to work within them. Let me sleep a little later. Get the early birds up. Like my husband is an early bird. Get him up. Let me sleep. So you need to learn your patients. What works for one doesn't work for another. You need to find out their personality, what they like, what they don't like, and try to work within this. Now, this is really, really hard right now because everybody thinks that travel is the next best thing. Travel CNAs, they serve a purpose, but the problem is that the patient is always the one that suffers at the end because there's not a single person in this facility that knows what Mary was like, what Mary likes, what Mary doesn't like. And she's going to be resistant because nobody knows her. And most importantly, she doesn't know them. So consistency really is key here, right? We want to watch our approach and our communication. If you didn't get it right the first time, you need to back up and try again. Don't assume that just because you told somebody something that means they got it. They may not, right? Remember, they got that preoccupation thing going on. So if you need to repeat it, you need to repeat it. If you've got to say it a different way, you're going to say it a different way, but you need to do what you can do to gain their cooperation. You want to explain it in a way that's easy for them to understand. And this is, again, meeting them where they are. So if I've got a dementia patient, I need to get whatever task I'm about to do across to them. And that may take me a little bit of time to get that information across to them in a way they can understand. But I also want to try to take into account their strengths and weaknesses and their preferences as well. If I've got somebody who showered at night their entire life and I put them on a shower schedule for the morning, they're probably going to be resistant. Now, if I've got somebody who has very, very low energy in the evenings, then morning shower schedule might be better, but we need to work with the patient to try to find out that good fit, right? And you're not alone. You need to work with your team on the strategy. CNAs do not force. If you're in a situation where you have to force a patient to accept your care, things have gone way off track. You're not working with your team. You need to go back to that nurse and try to figure out with the nurse and the rest of the team how we can accommodate the care for this patient to make them more cooperative. So you need to work with your team. And if you're in a situation where it's CNAs versus nurses, the patient is always going to be the one that loses. Always. Because if it's you versus the nurse, then whatever's trying to kill that patient, nobody's addressing that. Nobody. You guys are on opposing teams. You need to be on the same team as the nurse trying to combat whatever's trying to kill the patient, right? Don't find yourself on the wrong team here. So the patient's the one that's going to suffer. So work with your team, not against them. Sometimes using rewards and praise can be a great option here to get the patient's cooperation. I have no problem rewarding patients that, for cooperating or, offering and explaining, Miss Mary, I'd love to take you to bingo this afternoon. I know how much you like that, but would you like to get a shower first so that you're nice and fresh, and that way you can lay down after bingo and take a rest? So rewards and praise are a great motivator. Nobody likes to be looked down on or talked bad about. Reward and praise, uplifting speech is always preferred. We want to involve their family. If the family's around and they're accessible and they know Miss Mary and what her schedule was and everything, get the family involved. Try to find out more information about the patient so you can work their care to what suits the patient, not us. Consistency counts, guys, and I can't say this enough, especially if you're working with patients in the top 3. The dementia, the psych issues, and the personality. If you have that on top of the whole environmental thing, if you've got those issues to deal with, then you're going to have to use some consistency here. Showers need to be at the same time. Meals need to be at the same time. The routine needs to be consistent. The caregivers need to be consistent, because having this constant parade of new people in and out all the time requires coping mechanisms. And if you have dementia or if you have a psych issue, you have no coping mechanisms. That's the whole point. That is the whole disease. There are no coping mechanisms. So all of this change requires coping. And if I have no coping mechanisms, how am I supposed to address the change, right? How do I accommodate that? So consistency counts. But above all, our job is to be kind. Kind. Health care, right? It's not health skills. It's health care. So we have to be kind and considerate and loving and caring and compassionate and ethical. These are all super important things. And if all else fails, go back and try again later. But at the end of the day, we want to treat our patients the way they would like to be treated. And it's the same way you would want to be treated if you were in that position. I hope this helps you guys. I know this is kind of a long one. And Joey, that's why I told you I couldn't address it in like the 5 minutes we had left last week, because there's so much to go over here. But, we need to understand, and probably the most common example of this is when you have an elderly woman who needs a bed bath, particularly one with dementia. And you go in and your job is to give her a bed bath. And a lot of CNAs think, well, she has dementia. She doesn't understand what I'm saying, so I'm not going to bother explaining it to her because she won't get it anyway. No, that's the wrong approach. I guarantee you, if a stranger came into your room tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the morning while you're sound asleep, and you did not know who they were, and the lights in the room are dim, and they start undressing you, this total stranger is now ripping your clothes off and trying to hold you down while they do it, you are not going to go willingly. You are going to assume the worst 100%, and we need to understand that's exactly how our patients are going to see it too. So you need to, even with dementia patients, you need to be talking to them. Even if a patient is in a persistent vegetative state, or what people normally call a coma, you still need to talk to them. You have to explain what you're doing, because just because they can't communicate outwardly does not mean that they're not taking in what's happening around them. So keep that in mind. Do not make assumptions about their level of understanding. You have to communicate as if everybody has the ability to understand at some level. Adjust your communication. Don't expect them to adjust theirs. If they could, they wouldn't need us, right? So now is the time for your questions. Let's see who's here. Hi, Yvette. Hi, Priya. Hi, Joey. Hi, John. Hi, Ale. Blue says, sometimes I hate how CNA classes only teach skills and totally skip over dealing with family members and uncooperative patients. I agree, Blue. That is what CNA training is supposed to be about. We tend to unfortunately shift our focus to skills, right? Think concrete things that we can teach. I can show you how to help with a bedpan or change a bed or those types of things. But those are just skills. Those are skills. That is not what makes a CNA, right? So you're absolutely right, Blue. John says you're doing a nice job. Thank you. Oh, thank you, John. Hi, Shirley. John says, my class is starting on Monday and your video is giving me guidelines. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so happy, John. That's amazing. If you get a chance, I know your class starts on Monday, but I actually live stream my classes as well on my YouTube channel. So if you get a chance, feel free to go back and watch some of my replays or join an actual live classroom live stream, because I actually answer questions right there on the screen. So feel free to join one of our classes as well. Helen, hey Helen. Oh, you had a train delay. Well, welcome. Better late than ever. I'm late for everything. Hi, Mimi. Nice to see you. All right, anybody have any questions for me today? Anything that I can help you with? Any questions? While we're waiting, let's get to, if you have questions, put them in the chat. But while we're waiting, let's get to our congratulations. So these are individuals that took the test and passed, and we want to send them a heartfelt congratulations. And in order to be congratulated on one of our upcoming episodes, when you take the test and pass, just put a comment on any one of my videos. I don't care, pick one, any of my videos, but fresh comments, please. Not a reply to somebody else. Give me a fresh comment. Let me know that you passed, and we'd be happy to congratulate you on an upcoming episode as well. So this week we want to congratulate K.A., Shantu Philippe, and Ta Mabel. Congratulations to all of you for passing the state exam. We want to send you best wishes and wish you great success in your new career. You're going to be fantastic. And testing soon is That's So Yasmin. That's So Yasmin is testing soon. So good vibes out to Yasmin. And Mimi says, thanks for your help. Do we still need to do fingerprints again if we already take the CNA exam? No, your fingerprints are good for 5 years in most states. That's kind of the general guideline. So in most states, if you did a level 2 background check with fingerprints, most states are requiring photo as well. That is going to stay in the clearinghouse or in the database for 5 years, and then you'll have to resubmit. So if you have to retest, you don't have to redo your fingerprints. So I'd like to invite you guys to follow us on social media. We're everywhere. We're on Twitter, and I haven't really done anything with most of these. So if there's not a whole lot there, bear with me. Join, because I'm going to be starting to use these platforms, and it would be good to have some people on there that can let me know if I'm doing it right or not. Remember, I don't do tech, right? I'm tech challenged. The fact that I'm so close to 100,000 subscribers, guys, that's all you. You deserve the credit for that, not me, because I am tech challenged. We all know this. But if you have a chance, grab us on one of our social media channels. I will be using this here very shortly. But in the interest of things that are coming shortly, I want to see, I'm going to try something here, okay? So you guys are my guinea pigs this week. So we're going to try something. I don't know if it's actually going to work, but I have this new platform where we're going to be doing a practice test game show. And I think to start, I'm going to do it every other week. Now, I talked to you about this last week, but I actually met with a developer and the outreach person this week. So I was able to get a tour and figure out how it works. And I'm going to be using it. So I created like a little sample. Now, I've never done this before. I didn't even try it. I literally kind of put it in 5 minutes before I came live. So I don't know if this is going to work. But on the next slide, we're going to see if it does. I'm going to show you a question and show you how this works. If I set it up right. I don't know. Let's try. So let's see here. So let's see. It's working. Oh my gosh. All right. So hang with me for a few minutes, guys, because I really want to give this a good trial, okay? This is going to take, it's loading right now. It looks like it's going to load in about 40 seconds. So hold on 1 second. I'm going to, okay, hold on a minute. I am going to take this off. Okay. All right. Can you guys see it? All right. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Give me a second. I know. I'm so excited. So let's go to 720. All right. Okay. So that is how this is going to work. The practice test. Oh, sorry, I didn't show you your results. Hold on. So this is how we're going to be doing the practice test game show. And it's going to be 60 questions, and you'll have longer now that I know how to time it out. I was able to do it though, man. That is awesome. This is so cool. It's so good. It's such a cool program. So we're going to be doing this live probably every other week. I'll let you know. But one of the things that that I wanted from you while we're together, so we're going to use the same format. You can't actually see the question right now, but the same format, okay? The same format. So you're going to type in 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I want you to tell me when the best day, let's see here, when the best day for this game show, right? So one is going to be Tuesday evening. So if you want Tuesday evening, put 1 in the chat. Okay, 1 in the chat. If you want Saturday morning, put 2 in the chat. So Tuesday evening, 1 in the chat. Saturday morning, 2. Saturday evening, 3. Or Sunday afternoon, 4. So 1 for Tuesday evening, 2 for Saturday morning, 3 for Saturday evening, or 4 for Sunday afternoon. Tuesday, Saturday morning, Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon. So let me know, just type it in, and we should it should show up here. Okay, it's not, for some reason it's not running. All right, I'll have to work on the I'm going to have to work on this part a little bit. But it looks like in the chat most of you are saying oh, there we go, Saturday. Okay, it is starting to show up. All right. Okay. So, give me a second here. I'm going to, here's the poll. Let me pull this up so you guys can actually see it. Hold on one second. Okay, so you guys should be able to see here that almost everybody. There we go. If you are a Prometric tester, you do not have to raise the bed for anything. So that's not on Prometric testing. But, and I'm not sure what you mean about screen. I'm thinking you're talking about the privacy curtain. But if the bed controls and the privacy curtain, they're both considered dirty, so it doesn't matter. But after you do both of those, you would want to go wash your hands. That's for infection control. We always have to have clean hands when we touch the patient. And Helen asks, is it obligatory that whenever we document in a skill, we must wash our hands? Yes. So Helen, you want to wash your hands before you document because that pen goes home with you at the end of the day, right? This is my pen. It goes home with me. So I don't want anything from a clinical setting, any pathogens in my home, right? Because that's just kind of a bad idea. So we always want to wash our hands before we document. That keeps our pen clean. But the checklists that they're grading us on says end skill with clean hands. So we wash our hands, we pick up the pen and we document, and then we must go wash our hands again because the checkpoint says end skill with clean hands. So when we're documenting, we're actually going to wash our hands twice, once before documentation and once after. All right, guys. Actually, this doesn't help. Look at our take a look at this. We're going to do this again next week. But so be prepared. But you guys, you did an awesome job. Thank you so much for playing along and kind of getting an idea of how this live quiz is going to work. What do you guys think? Do you like the idea of being able to answer the questions live in real time on the screen? Do you like that? Do you think it's going to be useful for you to see the test question, the similar questions to the state test in this format? If so, I'm going to go ahead and move forward and start creating the questions, and I'm going to dress it up a little bit, a little different backdrop. You'll still be able to see me, and we'll kind of work on this quiz show type thing. And the really cool thing is I'm going to give out prizes to the top ranking the people that rank at the top 3 spots are going to get prizes each week for participating. So does that sound like it's something that you guys would be interested in? Would you attend? Would you find it helpful or fun to see these questions and being able to participate? Do you guys like it? So let me know. Keep it in the back of your mind, and we'll kind of address this again next week. I'm just going to kind of tease it, and you guys are going to be my guinea pigs because you're awesome and you're going to let me do this, and that's awesome. So I'll have a couple more questions for you next week, and we're going to try this format out again. I'll have it dialed in a little bit more. That way when I do take it live and it's for real, we kind of have an idea of how this whole thing works. So I hope that helps you. I'm super excited about this opportunity. I haven't seen anything else out there like it that allows you guys to participate in real time and get points for it. So that's just amazing. It's an amazing program. I'm super excited about it. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's show. I kept it a little bit long. I'm so sorry, but thank you guys for playing along. Remember, if nothing else, we need 266 subscribers to get to that 100,000 mark. So please subscribe if you haven't. Let us know what we can do to help improve your experience. What you would like to see from us. You guys are what makes our channel. So we're here for you, and we really truly appreciate everything, all the support that you've given us, and we're super excited to be able to develop new things like this for you to make learning fun, right? Learning doesn't have to be boring. It can be fun and exciting and give us an opportunity to take even better care of our patients. So until next time, guys, next week, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, next Thursday. We'll see you then. Until next time, happy caregiving. Bye.